All right, welcome everyone. I hope you're all having a good day. I want to start off with an apologies to those who expect Age of Empires 2 content on this channel. I haven't exactly played a whole lot of that game recently. I hope to get back to playing that game here at some point. No guarantees on how soon that'll be. In the meantime, want to try something a little bit different here. This is a game called Football Manager. In some parts of the world, it's known as soccer, but let's not get into that argument down in the comments, please. Okay, I am managing a club called FC Smorgon in the Belarusian highest league. I'm actually a few seasons into this save already, but I didn't want to create a new save to start trying to experiment with creating some content for this game. This is actually Football Manager 21. Football Manager 22 actually just came out here recently, so I'm playing on a little bit of a dated version of this game. This video might be a little bit longer because in the normal videos for this game, because I'll need to fill some of you in on the backstory of the save. So when I took control, it was the tail end of the 2020 season because of when the game save or the game date started for this database. I'd started unemployed and with no coaching badges, which is something when you generate your manager that you'll control, use to control or take charge of teams. You can set like your experience, the badges which sort of helps reflect on like your skill level as a manager if you're not familiar with Football Manager. But you can either like take over a club directly, or you can start unemployed and then go through the interview process and land a job sort of wherever you end up. When I play this game, I tend to start unemployed with no badges. I might have an idea of what region or like where generally in the world I may want to try to manage. I wanted to go to Eastern Europe for this save. This is where I ended up. But Belarus is a summer league. Their season was most of the way over when I started the save. And I actually applied for a different club in the second tier of Belarus first. They went with somebody else, and then the Smorgon job came open. I interviewed, was offered the job, boosted them from 9th to 8th in the last like half dozen matches when I was in charge in the second tier. Following year, we ended up finishing 4th in a tough 6-way title battle late in the season. With like 6 matches or so left, we were actually leading the league and would have gone up automatically. A couple late losses, we ended up dropping to 4th, had to go through a promotion playoff. Won that, got promotion, and then we finished 9th. We're never really in serious danger of relegation, though we weren't good enough to even be remotely threatening the European places either. And then we followed that up with an 8th place finish. And then 2 seasons ago, we finished 5th. We came very close to getting into Europe. In this season, we ended up 1 point behind 3rd place, which would have been a guaranteed spot in Europe. I'll talk more about that in a moment. And then this last season that we've completed, we regressed a little bit back to 7th. The season we ended up finishing 5th, my defense suddenly found its stride and looked fairly competent finally. And then it reverted to form. We had the third most goals scored last season, but we also conceded the third most. That does not add up to a high finish in the league. So to give you an idea of what we're looking at here, this is the league page. We've had 4 different champions the last 4 seasons. But Belarus being a summer league, it's on a little bit of a different schedule than most of Europe. So we don't get an idea till fairly far into the season of what our places like in Europe are going to be for the following year, or that we're competing for that season. We haven't done. We started the save by not doing particularly well in Europe and in Belarus. So what we've had for most of the save is the champion goes into the Champions League first qualifying round. Second and third go into the get guaranteed spots into the Europa Conference first qualifying round. And then the 4th European spot we have in Belarus either goes to the 4th place team or the winner of the Belarusian Cup. And the Belarusian Cup is a little interesting because of the Summer League. It actually starts one season and then finishes the following season. Like we play the first 3 rounds, determine who the quarterfinalists are going to be, and then the quarterfinals and the semifinals are 2 legs, it's a home and home, and then the finals is a single match the following. Those last 3 rounds are all the spring of the following season. Currently, this is June 2026 now in this save. We are currently 2nd in the league. We've gotten off to a really good start. Actually, the first time we've ever led the league at the end of a match round was the 2nd match of this season, because we just laid a demolition on Dnipro Mogilev. That 5-0, yeah, they had just promoted. We just pounded the stuffing out of them. It's been a bit of a weird season. I'll go back to the league page here for a moment to explain this. There's 4 or 5 there's 4 teams that you could almost expect every year to be contending for Europe. Bate, who's traditionally the strongest club, and Torpedo Zozinho are 2 of those clubs that are normally up contending for Europe. They're flirting with relegation right now, about a third of the way through the season, because it's a 30-match season. You play everybody twice, and then the other 2 traditional powers, if you will, are Shakhtar Sologorsk and Dynamo Minsk. That Brest title was a bit of a fluke, I believe. They haven't necessarily played all that well in a number of the other seasons. But, so yeah, we opened up 4 straight wins, including a 4-1 demolition of Bate, before losing back-to-back matches. The Dynamo Brest match, that was a little frustrating, because we should be able to beat them. However, if you look at the dates, that was the 3rd match we'd played in 8 days. So we had some tired legs. I'd had to rotate some of my backups into the squad. So it makes sense that we struggled a little bit in that match, and then followed that up a week later, losing 1-0 away to Shakhtar Sologorsk. Understandable loss, but we were not thoroughly outplayed in this match. We hung with them in their stadium before we got back on track here with 3 straight wins to end May. The first of which being against the holders, the champions from last season, Dynamo Minsk. Okay, to give you an idea, if you're not familiar with how Football Manager looks, I'll show the let's see here. I don't often go through the highlights and watch some of these goals. So this is the goals from the Bate match. I'll pick this as a representative match. I'll try to pick like one of these for each of these videos. There we got an early goal, up 1-0. The goal scorer there was Kakkonen. A Finnish guy I had signed last season. Nice little work play by them here to equalize. 25th minute. And we move ahead just before halftime. So 1-1 at this point. Very back and forth. Kakkonen sort of chips the keeper when he comes out. That's his second. We're up 2-1 at half. And then we get a couple more here late. Reemish gets that one. He's my leading scorer. He's the Golden Boot runner-up. So second best scorer in the league each of the last 2 seasons. And Reemish got the capper on that one as well. Yes, it was at home, but very convincing margin anyway. The stats show that it was actually a much more 50-50 match than the scoreline indicates. So we were definitely fortunate to win 4-1. So, I'll go to this screen. I run a pretty simple, straightforward 4-4-2 tactically. The squad that's selected right now is most of my normal first team. Zayats is actually normally my backup right back, but my starter is this Makarenko here. He busted some ribs in training a couple of weeks ago. He's out for a couple of months, which hurts, but my third string right fullback on the right side who can play both sides, is getting a little disgruntled about his lack of playing time. So maybe sort of a blessing in disguise there. A couple of guys to highlight. Shapko, who I brought in this off season because my goalkeeper that I'd had since the start of the save, I felt was sort of the weak spot in my defense, because his reflexes and handling, which are like the 2 most important attributes or skill levels for those who aren't familiar with FM terminology, are probably the 2 most important attributes. Were like almost the worst in the league. So I felt I had to trade off on some of what made the guy who had been my goalkeeper good, to try to get a little bit of an improvement in those areas. Shapko, not as much as I would have liked in a boost in his reflexes, but his handling is much better, which he actually demonstrated not too long ago when he actually caught a penalty attempt. Normally in FM, when you see a penalty that's saved, that the keeper got his hands on, he's punching it wide of the post or off the post. On paper, my best player is supposed to be this Alexei Mironov, who's Russian. Russia is one of the couple nations that is not considered foreign players in Belarus, because you're only allowed like 5 of those in your 11. but Russian and then I think Kazakhstani, which you hardly see any players from there, is the other nation. Before this season, Mironov had not really played all that well because you get like a player rating, and since Mironov had come to me, he'd averaged barely like a 6.6. Hadn't done much with goal contributions, even though he's supposed to be an advanced playmaker. So he's supposed to be help facilitating those goals. But for some reason, this season, it finally seems to have clicked. He's already set a high with the club, or well, a high for his career, actually, for assists in a season, and we aren't even a third of the way through the season. He's averaging over 7.2. This guy might be interesting to keep an eye on because I've occasionally seen Russian clubs interested in him. The traditional Belarusian powers interested in him. Now I'm showing for the first time minor interest from a Romanian club. They'd have to make a really good offer for me to sell him, but at the same time, I might, because of our difficulty with our finances, I probably would at least have to listen, because he is 26, so he should be about the prime of his career. And then the other guy I mentioned earlier has been my top scorer. Based on his attributes, you wouldn't necessarily think that he should be as prolific a goal scorer as he is. And each player has like a star ability for the current and what your staff thinks they could have the potential to be. The attributes, those don't change based on like the talent of your team, talent of your league. Those are what they are. But yeah, based on his attributes, you wouldn't think Reemish would be this huge goal-scoring force. He's been my top scorer, and then yeah, 19 and 17 the previous two seasons. He's consistently averaged over 7. So as far as on-field performance, Reemish has really been my best player. So I finally awarded him with the number 20 for this season, which is a special number. If you're familiar with the Football Manager content creator Zealand, he did a video. I might try to link that video in the description. It's a very emotional story about a real life tragedy connected to somebody who watched his content. And a number of Zealand's viewers have since basically dedicated the number 20, which was the number of the person in the tragedy, to their best player, the hardest working player, that sort of so yeah, the players are fairly happy right now. Our finances have looked worse, believe it or not, actually. Part of why we've had problems, because the projections aren't pretty, but part of why we've had problems is when we promoted, the Belarusian highest league demands that you have undersoil heating installed. For some of the matches at the start and the end of the season, you sort of need it. So it's understandable. But we had to take out a massive loan, which has just wrecked our finances. we're almost halfway through paying it back. But our sponsors, as we've established ourselves as a solid top highest league team, our sponsorship money has started to catch up a little bit with the other teams around us. And let's see. I think I've pretty well covered everything, because part of why I'm trying to do this is I'm also beginning to sort of test the waters with potentially streaming on Twitch, and this is the save I would do that for. Being that it's now the year-old version of the game, I didn't want to start a brand new save to do content with. So I've done a couple of test streams on Twitch at this point, sort of trying to iron out the kinks. I think I'm fairly happy with where I'm at, but as far as like the audio levels, but yeah, my setup is rather primitive right now, so I definitely will leave the link to my Twitch channel in the description of the video. That being said, I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you next time.